So, Investigator Viverito, where we left off yesterday, we were talking about a post that was captured by you that showed Quamarvius Nichols with some writing on the picture, correct?
Correct.
Okay. We are going to get back to that later.
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to switch to another topic right now. But it is about the posts from March 2022 that you collected.
Okay.
Okay. The reality is in March 2022, you observed and collected some posts that you felt were relevant.
Sure.
And that you felt were derogatory or mocking both the Christian McMiller and Darius Ford situation.
I'd have to see which posts were.
Well, we're going to get to individual
Okay.
posts, but some of the posts were derogatory and mocking Christian McMiller and Darius Ford.
Correct.
And then you also pulled posts that you thought were derogatory or referencing or mocking Shamel Drinks' death as
Correct.
well, correct? Okay. And let's be clear. As an investigator, you are not saying just because someone posts something derogatory or mocking or referencing the death of another individual, that means that they committed that crime. You are not saying that, are you?
That is correct.
Okay. And I just want to talk to you about a couple of these posts. I'm going to bring them up to you, okay? These are all this is a bundle of the posts that you collected that are in evidence, correct?
Sure.
All right, may I approach?
Yes.
For instance, you observed some posts that were made following the Christian McMiller Darius Ford double homicide.
Correct.
On March 10th going into March 11th. And these posts were in the days following.
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Knight, could you do me a favor and publish what's been admitted as 457 VV? Investigator Viverito, this is a post posted by one ABG _ Big Nick, correct?
Correct.
And you know this person from the picture and also from his name on Instagram to be Nicholas Johnson.
Correct.
Okay. And in this post, when was this post collected by you?
That was collected, would have been around 8:20 on March 11th.
March 11th. Okay. So this is the morning after Christian McMiller and Darius Ford were gunned down.
The evening, 8:20 p.m.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, the evening after.
Correct.
About 20 hours after, 21 hours, or 19 hours after.
Somewhere around there.
Okay. And this post includes a, says slime and chalk.
Correct.
Okay. And you viewed this as a clear reference to Darius Ford and Christian McMiller being murdered in reference to a chalk outline of a body on the street.
Correct. Coupled with my knowledge and interactions with Mr. Johnson in the past, yes.
Right. I think you testified that Mr. Johnson, in your opinion, he is associated with Atlanta Blood Gang.
He's documented as a member, and he's also a fixture at 12 Atlanta daily.
Okay. So you saw this post, posted the next day, referencing the death, mocking slime and chalk. Mr. Johnson has not been charged for the murders of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford, correct?
Correct.
And the reason he hasn't been charged is because posting something like this, while it is insensitive, while it may be wrong, it doesn't mean that he killed Christian McMiller and Darius Ford, does it?
Correct. There's other things we would look at, like if he was in the vicinity of the murder on camera, coupled with a post that's not great, that would be something we'd take into consideration, but that didn't happen.
And Investigator Viverito, I knew you were going to be dying to say that, and we are going to talk about all the surveillance videos and all of the situation involving Mr. Drinks when I get to it, okay? But I'm asking you specifically about posts posts that is not a confession to killing Darius Ford or Christian McMiller, is it?
Absolutely not. But as an investigator, you need to look at things as a whole to piece things together, leading you towards suspects.
Okay,
So,
and that's why you collected this?
correct.
Okay. Ms. Knight, I'm going to ask you to publish 462 VV. Okay. 462 VV is 2 posts that showed up on this page labeled Joey_Hurst24, correct?
Correct.
All right, and on the left is Christian McMiller,
Correct.
and on the right is Darius Ford.
Correct.
And they're fairly self-explanatory. They're mocking the death of Mr. McMiller and Mr. Ford, correct?
Correct.
All right, and this was posted when?
I'd have to see the file name.
Okay, so you're not, and that's fine. Was it posted after the death of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I understand your belief is that this is a trolling page or a fake page. Is that correct?
It's a page. Yes, it's a page that we had not seen surface really or be vocal until this point.
Now, and certainly when you see a page like this, there are certain investigative things that you could do to try to determine who is behind this page, correct?
Correct.
You could subpoena Instagram, you could check IP addresses to see who set up the page, etc.
You could.
Okay. You or anyone else that you know of did no such thing to try to determine who Joey Hurst was, the
No.
government name. Okay. And the reason you didn't, and I'm not trying to beat you up, the reason you didn't go through those steps, if you thought this was a confession, and you thought this meant that Joey Hurst killed Mr. McMiller and Mr. Ford, you certainly would have gone through those steps to uncover who it is behind this post, if you thought that was the killer.
If I thought that was, but the investigation led us to other suspects.
Okay. The bottom line is you did not view these posts as signifying that whoever was behind this account was the killer of Mr. McMiller and Mr. Ford. You didn't view it that way.
Correct. The individuals that were making posts who we deemed as suspects, they were further investigated, whether it be cell phone extractions or social media.
Okay. 456 VV. This post was collected on March 11th, 2022 at 11:30 p.m., correct?
Correct.
Okay, so again, about a day after Mr. McMiller and Mr. Ford were killed.
Correct.
Okay, and you testified on direct about what you thought new op pack just came in. It's kind of like we're smoking on our ops.
Correct.
Okay. Certainly not kind, not nice, not sympathetic, and it's showing approval for what happened, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And this page is another one that you didn't know the government name of the person behind it.
Correct.
Okay, and you didn't go through any investigative steps, or anyone else that you know of go through any investigative steps to determine the person behind it.
Correct.
Okay, and the reason, again, is because this post, you didn't take it as a confession. You didn't take this post as saying, I'm the person who did it.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Finally, we're going to talk about Kelvin Watts.
Okay.
Okay, Kelvin Watts has not been arrested for the Christian McMiller or Darius Ford murder, has he?
He has not.
Okay. And this has all happened 2 years ago at
Correct.
this point. Okay. Really 2.5 years ago, more than 2.5 years ago. Mr. Watts made several posts regarding the death of Darius Ford and Christian McMiller.
Correct.
Okay. In 473 VV, that's posted by Shell Kel Nutlife, correct?
Correct.
And you know that to be Kelvin Watts.
Correct.
And this was posted shortly after the death of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford.
Correct.
Okay, and this actually depicts Mr. Donovan Thomas.
Correct.
And underneath Mr. Thomas's left eye are 2 shells.
Correct?
Okay, and as an investigator, you're aware of like prison tattoos or eye teardrops under an eye, correct?
Yes, that's what I spoke about on direct.
Okay, right. And you took this as kind of a play on the teardrops under the eyes of 2 shells indicating 2 bodies, Darius Ford and Christian McMiller.
Correct. The first time we started seeing the 2 shells under the eye was after the death of Christian Ford and Darius McMiller, I think, in days following.
Okay, Ms. Knight, could you please publish 461 VV? Here's another picture of Shell Kel or Kelvin Watts that posted shortly after the death of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and these are, you got to look a little close, but I see the big shell off of his hair, but then there's 2 little shells under his left eye.
Correct.
Okay, and again, that's a post that you interpreted to be a reference to the death of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford.
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Knight, if you could publish 454 VV, please. Okay, in this post, again, shortly after the death of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford, correct?
This was in the hours after they were killed, yes.
And this is on Shell Kelvin Watts' page.
Yes.
And again, we see the 2 shells.
Correct.
Okay, and that had significance to you because there was 2 dead bodies.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And 460 VV, please, Ms. Knight. Okay, again, here, this was posted shortly after the death of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford.
Correct.
And we have 2 shells, right?
Correct.
And we have a smiley face, except the lips are zip-tied or zipped up, I guess.
Correct.
And a black heart.
Correct.
Okay, and this was on Mr. Kelvin Watts' page.
Correct.
All right. Also, and Ms. Knight, thank you. Also, you're aware that Shell Kel or Kelvin Watts has made a song that references Christian McMiller and Darius Ford, correct?
He may have.
You never heard Mafia Story by Shell Kel and Third World?
I haven't, but it would not surprise me if he did.
I heard my ops died like some thoughts, referring to 2 snakes dying with their eyes wide open and their tongues out. Crime scene nasty in a fast car, died in empty traffic.
That sounds about on brand for Kelvin Watts.
Okay, and that was a reference to the Kia Stinger, the fast car is the Kia Stinger that Mr. McMiller and Mr. Ford were in.
That sounds about right.
Speculation.
Were Mr. McMiller and Mr. Ford riding in a Kia Stinger?
They were in a gray and color Kia Stinger.
Okay, and were they in fact shot on the highway?
Yes, they were on the highway.
Okay. Mr. Watts, despite these 4 posts that you collected and this song, has not been charged with the murder of Christian McMiller or Darius Ford, has he?
No, he has not, but that's also an open investigation that's not assigned to me. So.
Okay, that's fine.
But
But the answer is he has not been charged. And it's just 2 years, 8 months later.
It's still open active investigation.
Right, and you've had you collected these postings that Mr. Watts made way back in March of 2022.
Correct, but so investigations, just the social media posts aren't enough to arrive at probable cause. You'd need him maybe on video at the crime scene before that murder, things of that nature. So if the social media was enough for probable cause, a lot of people probably would have gone to jail for this, but we don't do that.
Right, because there were a lot of people posting on social media.
Correct.
A lot of people posting horrible things on social media.
But unfortunately, nobody was on camera at the scene, or there was no Nibin.
Investigator Viverito, I know that you have come with an agenda today, and I know that you want to talk about the security cameras, and we will absolutely talk about the security cameras. I promise you.
Commentary and, well, there's commentary going on both sides. Answer the question that's asked.